If you've ever thought your love life was messy, allow me to introduce you to Zeus, king of the gods, ruler of Olympus, and the original inventor of It's Complicated. Zeus didn't just fall in love, he descended in love. He transformed for love. He disguised himself for love. And sometimes, he just showed up as a cloud and hoped for the best. But let's rewind. Zeus was born into chaos. Literally, his father, Cronus, had a nasty habit of swallowing his children whole. You know, as one does. But Zeus escaped that fate, grew up in hiding, and eventually overthrew his dad in a dramatic Olympian coup. With a thunderbolt in one hand and a smirk in the other, he claimed the throne of the cosmos. He ruled the skies, commanded storms, and had a voice that could shake mountains. But beneath the booming authority was a heart that fluttered for beauty, wit, and the occasional mortal maiden who just wanted to pick flowers in peace. And that's where the trouble began. Zeus wasn't just powerful, he was irresistible. Or at least, he thought he was. He pursued goddesses, nymphs, and mortals with the enthusiasm of a golden retriever chasing a squirrel. But unlike the retriever, Zeus had the ability to shapeshift into anything, and I mean anything, to get what he wanted. A swan? Sure. A bull? Why not? A shower of golden rain. Don't ask. Each affair came with its own myth, its own consequences, and its own very angry wife. Hera, goddess of marriage and queen of Olympus, was not amused. She was the original girl boss, and she had notes. While Zeus gallivanted across the heavens, Hera kept a detailed spreadsheet of every betrayal, and she made sure each lover paid the price. Some were turned into cows, others into bears. Some were cursed to wander the earth, and a few were launched into the stars as constellations, which sounds poetic until you realize it's basically eternal exile with a view. You might be wondering, why tell these stories now? Why whisper them at bedtime? Because these aren't just tales of divine romance. They're the building blocks of Western mythology. They explain the origins of gods, heroes, and even cities. They show how love, even messy, chaotic, thunderbolt-slinging love, can shape the world. And let's be honest, they're hilarious. Where else can you read about a god who turns into a goose to seduce a queen, or a woman who gives birth to a hero after being visited by a cloud? These stories are absurd. They're dramatic. They're ancient gossip, wrapped in lightning and laurel leaves. And they're perfect for drifting off to sleep with a smile. So tuck yourself in, get cozy, because over the next 19 chapters, we're going to explore every scandalous, star-crossed, shape-shifting love story Zeus ever sparked. Slowly, sleepily, and with just enough thunder to keep things interesting. Like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments from where you're watching from. Olympus is tuning in too. Before there were dating apps, there were thunderbolts. And Zeus? He didn't swipe right, he struck right. He was the king of the gods, the ruler of Olympus, the wielder of lightning and law. But beneath the marble muscles and booming voice was a heart that beat with divine longing and a libido that could power a small constellation. Let's be clear, Zeus wasn't just powerful, he was the power. The sky bent to his will. The clouds obeyed his moods. The seasons shifted when he sneezed. And yet, for all his cosmic control, there was one thing he could never quite master: desire. Zeus's thunderbolt wasn't just a weapon. It was a metaphor, a symbol, a divine exclamation point at the end of every flirtation. When Zeus fell in love or lust, or something in between, the skies would rumble, the earth would tremble, and somewhere, a mortal would look up and say, "Oh no, not again." He didn't fall for just one type. He loved goddesses with wisdom, nymphs with laughter, mortals with courage, and occasionally, women who were just trying to mind their own business in a meadow. And when he loved, he transformed, not emotionally, physically. He became a bull to woo Europa, a swan to seduce Leda, a golden shower to reach Danae, a cloud to hide with Io, a flame, a breeze, a whisper in the dark. Zeus was the original shapeshifter, not because he had to, but because he wanted to, because love, for him, was a game of masks and myths. You might think being immortal would make love easier. No aging, no awkward breakups, no ghosting, unless you count literal ghosts. But for Zeus, immortality was a curse of endless longing. He could never settle, never stop. Every century brought a new face, a new story, a new heart to chase. And yet, for all his power, he was never truly satisfied. Each affair ended in tragedy, transformation, or divine punishment. His lovers were scattered across the heavens, the earth, and the underworld. Some became stars, others became legends, a few became animals, and still, Zeus kept loving. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, or rather, the eagle, because while Zeus was out there turning into birds and seducing mortals, his wife Hera was at home, sharpening her curses. The double standard was divine. Zeus could have a dozen affairs and still be called father of the gods. Hera raised one eyebrow, and the skies darkened. But Zeus didn't see it that way. To him, love was destiny. Each union, no matter how brief, bizarre, or bovine, was part of a greater cosmic plan. His children would become heroes. His lovers would become myths. His stories would echo through temples, scrolls, and bedtime tales for millennia, like this one. So what drove Zeus? Was it loneliness? Boredom? A divine mid-eternity crisis? Maybe. Or maybe it was something deeper. A storm inside him that no thunderbolt could release. A hunger for connection, for creation, for the spark that only love, or something like it, could ignite. He was a god, yes, but he was also a lover, a dreamer, a walking contradiction wrapped in lightning and longing. And as we drift into the next chapter, remember this. Every myth you've ever heard, every hero, every monster, every epic, probably started with Zeus falling in love, or at least thinking he did. Hera wasn't just Zeus's wife. She was the goddess of marriage, queen of Olympus, and the original enforcer of loyalty. Regal, sharp, and deeply committed to her vows, she ruled beside Zeus with grace and a growing list of grievances. Because Zeus, he had the romantic restraint of a lightning bolt in a perfume shop. Metis, Mnemosyne, Demeter, Io, Europa, Danae, Semele, Leda, Callisto, Alcmene, Nemesis. Each name was a thunderclap in Hera's heart, and each time she responded not with tears, but with curses. Io became a cow, Callisto a bear, Semele was vaporized, Leto was chased across the earth. Hera didn't just punish the lovers, she punished their children too. Heracles, 12 labors. Dionysus, madness. Helen of Troy, a war. Io's story was Hera's masterpiece. Zeus disguised himself as a cloud to seduce her. Hera, suspicious, demanded the cloud-shaped lover as a gift. Zeus panicked and turned Io into a cow. Hera accepted the cow and assigned Argus, a giant with 100 eyes, to guard her. Eventually, Hermes freed Io, and Hera placed Argus's eyes on a peacock's tail. Revenge, with flair. Despite it all, Hera loved Zeus. She stayed. She ruled. She bore his children. Her rage wasn't just divine. It was heartbreak, wrapped in thunder. She was the goddess of marriage, not because it was easy, but because it was sacred, even when it hurt. Metis was brilliant, the kind of goddess who could solve riddles before they were asked. She was wisdom, strategy, and foresight wrapped in a divine toga. Naturally, Zeus fell for her, because nothing attracted him more than a woman who could outthink him. But there was a problem. A prophecy whispered through Olympus. If Metis bore a son, he would overthrow Zeus, and Zeus, having just overthrown his own father, wasn't keen on repeating the cycle. So he did what any thunder-wielding god would do. He swallowed her, whole. No breakup, no farewell, just one divine gulp. Metis, pregnant and wise, vanished into Zeus's belly. But she didn't stop working. Inside Zeus, Metis crafted armor and nurtured her child. Meanwhile, Zeus began to suffer, not emotionally, physically. A headache unlike any other, thunderous, splitting, Olympian. Hephaestus, or Prometheus, depending on the myth version, was summoned. With a divine axe, he cracked open Zeus's skull, and from his forehead burst Athena, fully grown, fully armored, radiant, poised, and ready to rewrite the rules of war and wisdom. It was the first and only cranial birth in mythology. No labor pains, just a forehead explosion of brilliance. Athena became one of the most powerful Olympians, goddess of wisdom, strategy, and civilization. She was calm, logical, and famously uninterested in romance. Perhaps because she saw what happened to her mother. She carried Metis's legacy, intellect, independence, and a quiet defiance of chaos. And Zeus? He added forehead delivery to his resume and moved on to his next mythological entanglement. Because in Olympus, love was never simple, and sometimes wisdom had to be swallowed before it could be born. After his structured romance with Themis, Zeus decided to take a more poetic detour. Less law and order, more lyric and longing. Enter Mnemosyne. She was the goddess of memory, ancient, elegant, and quietly powerful. She didn't shout. She didn't curse. She remembered everything. Every word, every whisper, every thunderclap of history. And Zeus, he was enchanted. Their love story wasn't rushed. It was slow, deliberate, and stretched across 9 consecutive nights. No disguises, no golden rain, just Zeus and Mnemosyne, wrapped in memory and moonlight. From this union came the Muses, 9 daughters who would become the divine patrons of art, music, poetry, and inspiration. Each muse had her own domain: Calliope, epic poetry; Clio, history; Erato, love poetry; Euterpe, music Melpomene, tragedy; Polyhymnia, sacred hymns; Terpsichore, dance Thalia; comedy, Urania, astronomy. Together, they were the original creative collective, the influencers of Olympus, whispering ideas into the minds of poets, playwrights, and dreamers. Mnemosyne's gift wasn't just her daughters. It was the reminder that memory fuels creativity, that every story, every song, every myth begins with remembering. And Zeus, he may have forgotten a few birthdays, but he never forgot Mnemosyne. She was the quiet force behind every tale he inspired. including this one. Their love wasn't dramatic. It was foundational, a gentle spark that lit the fires of imagination across the ancient world. After swallowing Metis and giving birth to Athena through his forehead, still wild, Zeus decided to take a more structured approach to love. Enter Themis. She wasn't just a goddess, she was order itself. Themis represented divine law, justice, and the cosmic balance that kept gods from turning the universe into a chaotic toga party. She was calm, wise, and had the energy of someone who color codes scrolls for fun. And somehow, Zeus fell for her. Their relationship wasn't fiery or scandalous. It was more like a celestial board meeting with occasional hand-holding. Themis didn't run from Hera's wrath or get turned into a cow. She was respected, revered, and most importantly, safe. Together, Zeus and Themis produced some of the most important forces in mythology. The Horai, goddesses of the seasons and natural order. The Moirai, or fates, who controlled the destiny of gods and mortals alike. That's right. Their love gave birth to time and destiny. No pressure. The fates were three sisters. Clotho, who spun the thread of life. Lachesis, who measured it. Atropos, who cut it. They didn't care if you were a king or a shepherd. When your thread was snipped, it was snipped. And they were born from the union of Zeus and Themis, proving that even the king of chaos could father order. Unlike Zeus's other romances, his time with Themis was quiet. No disguises, no transformations, no golden rain, just mutual respect and a shared vision for cosmic balance. It was the kind of love that didn't make headlines, but shaped the heavens. And while Zeus eventually moved on, because of course he did, Themis remained a pillar of divine law, whispering wisdom into the ears of gods and mortals alike. Demeter was the goddess of grain, growth, and the golden fields that fed the world. She walked through meadows with purpose, her footsteps blooming wheat and barley. She wasn't flashy, she was foundational. And Zeus, ever the opportunist, saw something irresistible in her quiet power. Their union was brief, hushed, and tucked between seasons. No swans, no bulls, no golden rain, just a moment of divine closeness that would change the fate of gods and mortals alike. From that moment came Persephone, a daughter born in secret, hidden from Olympus, and destined to become the queen of two worlds. Demeter kept Persephone close, raising her in the soft light of spring and shielding her from the chaos of Olympus. She didn't tell Zeus. She didn't tell Hera. She didn't tell anyone. Persephone grew into a radiant young goddess, full of curiosity and grace. But secrets in Olympus don't stay buried for long. And one day, Hades, god of the underworld, and Zeus's brother, saw Persephone picking flowers and decided she was the one. He opened the earth and took her. Just like that. Demeter was devastated. She searched the world, refusing to let anything grow until her daughter was returned. Crops withered, fields died, mortals starved. And Zeus? He shrugged. She's with family, he said. Technically, eventually, a deal was struck. Persephone would spend half the year with Demeter and half with Hades. Thus, the seasons were born, spring and summer for joy, autumn and winter for longing. Zeus and Demeter's story wasn't loud, it wasn't scandalous, it was quiet, like the rustle of wheat in the wind. But it gave the world one of its most powerful myths, the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. And Persephone? She became a symbol of duality. light and dark, growth and decay, daughter and queen, all from a love that bloomed in secret. Aphrodite's origin story is one of the great mysteries of Greek mythology. Some say she rose from sea foam after Uranus was sliced and tossed into the ocean. Others say she was born from the union of Zeus and Dione, a goddess so quiet even Olympus forgot she was there. Tonight, we'll follow the second version because it's softer, sleepier, and it gives Zeus one more love story to add to his ever-growing collection. Dione wasn't flashy. She didn't chase drama or thunder. She was a titaness, ancient, serene, and often overlooked, but she carried a quiet power, like a lullaby sung by the stars. Zeus, ever the seeker of beauty and mystery, was drawn to her. Their union was gentle, almost secretive. No bulls, no swans, no golden rain, just a moment of cosmic calm. From that moment came Aphrodite, the goddess of love, beauty, and irresistible chaos. Aphrodite didn't crawl or cry. She emerged, radiant, glowing, surrounded by doves and sea breezes. She was love personified, and she knew it. Her presence stirred hearts, sparked rivalries, and inspired countless myths. She was the reason gods argued, mortals swooned, and artists painted for centuries. Whether born from foam or from Dione, one thing was clear. Aphrodite was unforgettable. Aphrodite ruled over romance, seduction, and the kind of love that made even Zeus nervous. She married Hephaestus, flirted with Ares, and caused more drama than a dozen thunderbolts. And Zeus, he watched his daughter become the embodiment of everything he chased: beauty, passion, and the occasional scandal. Dione faded into the background, her role quiet but essential. She was the mother of love, the whisper behind the roar. Io was a priestess of Hera, devoted, graceful, and entirely uninterested in divine drama, which made her the perfect target for Zeus. He saw her, he wanted her, and as usual, he didn't ask politely. Zeus disguised himself as a cloud, soft, misty, and suspiciously romantic. He descended upon Io, and their secret affair began. But secrets don't last long in Olympus, especially when Hera's involved. Hera, sensing something was off, and probably noticing the unusually flirtatious weather, confronted Zeus. He panicked, and in a move that would baffle veterinarians for centuries, he turned Io into a cow, a real cow, with hooves, horns, and a moo. Hera, not fooled, demanded the cow as a gift. Zeus, cornered, handed her over with a nervous moo. Hera accepted and assigned Argus, a giant with 100 eyes, to guard Io day and night. Because when your husband turns his mistress into livestock, you hire a walking surveillance system. Zeus, desperate to free Io, sent Hermes, the trickster god, to handle Argus. Hermes played a lullaby so soothing, even 100 eyes couldn't stay open. Argus fell asleep, and Hermes struck. Io was free, but not really. She wandered the earth, mooing through Egypt, chased by a gadfly sent by Hera. She crossed deserts, rivers, and myths, until finally she reached safety and was restored to human form. Io's journey was long, painful, and oddly bovine, but she survived. She gave birth to a son who would become an ancestor of Heracles. Her story echoed through generations, proving that even the most cursed love could shape legends. And Zeus, he moved on to the next disguise, the next affair, the next chapter. But Io's moo still lingers in myth. Danae was a princess of Argos, beautiful and bright, but cursed by prophecy. Her father, King Acrisius, had heard a chilling oracle. His daughter would bear a son who would one day kill him. So, naturally, he did what any loving father would do. He locked her in a bronze tower. No doors, no windows, just a skylight. Because apparently, bronze towers are excellent for preventing destiny. But Zeus saw her, and when Zeus sees someone, no amount of metal can stop him. Zeus didn't descend as a swan or a bull this time. He became something more poetic, more radiant, more sparkly. He transformed into a shower of golden rain. Through the skylight, the shimmering droplets fell, surrounding Danae in divine light, and from that golden moment, a child was conceived, Perseus, destined to become one of the greatest heroes in Greek mythology. A bronze tower couldn't stop fate, and a prophecy, as always, found its way. When Acrisius discovered the child, he panicked. Again, he placed Danae and baby Perseus in a wooden chest and cast them into the sea. But the gods were watching. The chest floated safely to the island of Seriphos, where Danae was welcomed, and Perseus grew strong, brave, and ready to face monsters. He would go on to slay Medusa, rescue Andromeda, and fulfill the prophecy, though not in the way Acrisius feared. Zeus's union with Danae was brief, mysterious, and wrapped in gold, but it gave the world a hero, a myth, and a reminder that destiny always finds a way, even through a skylight. And Danae? She became a symbol of resilience, motherhood, and the quiet strength that shapes legends. Europa was a Phoenician princess, graceful, curious, and blissfully unaware that her beach day was about to become a mythological kidnapping. She wandered the shore, picking flowers and laughing with her friends. The sun was warm, the sea was calm, and Zeus, watching from Olympus, decided it was the perfect moment to fall in love. But instead of descending as a cloud or a swan this time, Zeus chose something bolder. He became a bull, a dazzling, snow-white bull with eyes like polished amber and a presence that made even the waves pause. Zeus trotted up to Europa, gentle and majestic. She was enchanted. She stroked his fur. He knelt. She climbed onto his back. And then, splash, he charged into the sea. Europa screamed. Her friends panicked. But Zeus kept swimming, carrying her across the Mediterranean with the confidence of a god who'd done this sort of thing before. They reached Crete, where Zeus revealed his true form and showered Europa with gifts, promises, and, of course, children. Europa bore Zeus 3 sons, including Minos, who would become king of Crete and later build the infamous labyrinth that housed the Minotaur. Her name lived on, not just in myth, but in geography. The continent of Europe was named after her, a tribute to the princess who rode a bull into legend. And Zeus, he moved on. But the bull remained a symbol of divine desire, bold choices, and beach days gone wildly off script. Europa's story is one of the most iconic in mythology, a tale of transformation, adventure, and unexpected destiny. It reminds us that love, especially divine love, doesn't always arrive with flowers. Sometimes it shows up with horns. Leto was grace in motion, a titaness with a calm presence and a quiet strength. She didn't seek attention, but she had a glow that caught Zeus's eye. And once Zeus noticed someone, the gods held their breath. Their union was soft, secretive, and, as usual, scandalous. Because Hera found out. And when Hera found out, things got complicated. Leto became pregnant with twins, but Hera, furious and unrelenting, banned every land under the sun from giving her shelter. No city, no island, no mountaintop would allow Leto to rest. She wandered endlessly, exhausted and swollen with divine children, chased by Hera's wrath, and denied refuge by the entire earth, until she found Delos, a floating island, untethered to the land, drifting in the sea like a forgotten dream. Delos welcomed her, and there, under the soft light of the stars, Leto gave birth. First came Artemis, goddess of the hunt, wilderness, and moonlight. She arrived swiftly, silently, already strong and serene. Then came Apollo, god of music, prophecy, healing, and the sun. He emerged radiant, golden, and ready to charm the world with his lyre and wisdom. Together, they were balance, moon and sun, wild and cultured, fierce and poetic. And Hera? She fumed, but the twins were untouchable. Zeus's love for Leto wasn't loud, it was protective. He shielded her from Hera's fury, guided her to Delos, and watched as their children became two of the most beloved gods in Olympus. Apollo and Artemis would go on to shape myths, inspire temples, and bring light to both day and night. And Leto? She remained a symbol of endurance, the mother who outran wrath and gave birth to brilliance. Semele was a mortal princess of Thebes, beautiful, bold, and completely unaware that her love life was about to become a thunderstorm. Zeus saw her. He fell for her, and unlike his usual disguises, this time he came as himself, charming, radiant, and very much a god. Semele was swept off her feet. Their affair was passionate, secretive, and, as always, doomed. Because Hera found out. Hera disguised herself as an old woman and befriended Semele. She planted a seed of doubt. If Zeus truly loves you, she whispered, ask him to show himself in his full divine form. Semele, curious and convinced, made Zeus promise to grant her one wish. Bound by his oath, Zeus agreed. Then she asked, and Zeus, heartbroken, revealed his true form: lightning, fire, and divine fury. Semele, a mortal, couldn't survive the blast. She was consumed in an instant, but she was pregnant. Zeus, desperate to save the unborn child, reached into the flames and rescued the fetus. He stitched the baby into his own thigh, yes, his thigh, and carried him until he was ready to be born. Thus, Dionysus entered the world, the god of wine, ecstasy, theater, and divine madness. He was called the twice-born, once from Semele, once from Zeus, a child of passion, tragedy, and resilience. Dionysus grew into a god unlike any other. He danced between joy and chaos, bringing wine to mortals and madness to those who resisted him. He blurred the line between celebration and surrender, and Semele, though gone, she was later brought to Olympus by her son, a rare honor for a mortal. Her love story was brief, fiery, and unforgettable, and her child became the heartbeat of every festival, every toast, every myth that dared to dance. Leda was the queen of Sparta, regal, graceful, and married to King Tyndareus. She ruled with poise and strength, admired by gods and mortals alike. Naturally, Zeus noticed. But instead of arriving with thunder or golden rain, he chose something more feathery. He became a swan, a soft, shimmering swan with wings like silk and eyes full of divine mischief. He flew down to Leda as she walked by a river, seeking shelter in her arms from a pretend storm. And Leda, startled but gentle, held the swan close. That swan was Zeus, And that embrace led to one of the strangest and most famous births in mythology. Leda later laid 2 eggs. Yes, eggs. From those eggs hatched 4 children. Helen, whose beauty would launch 1,000 ships and ignite the Trojan War. Clytemnestra, future queen and tragic figure, Castor and Pollux, the twin brothers known as the Dioscuri, protectors of sailors and stars. Some were mortal, some divine. Some were said to be fathered by Zeus, others by Tyndareus. Mythology, as always, leaves room for mystery. Zeus's encounter with Leda was brief, strange, and wrapped in feathers, but it gave the world Helen of Troy, a symbol of beauty, desire, and destiny. And the twins, Castor and Pollux, became stars in the sky, immortalized as the constellation Gemini. Leda remained a queen, a mother, and a mythic figure whose story blurred the line between love, legend, and swan-shaped surprises. Alcmene was a mortal queen of Thebes, noble, wise, and deeply devoted to her husband, Amphitryon. She wasn't looking for divine attention. She wanted peace, loyalty, and a quiet life. But Zeus had other plans. He was drawn to her beauty and virtue, and instead of arriving with thunder or feathers, he chose a more deceptive route. He disguised himself as Amphitryon, same face, same voice, same everything. While the real Amphitryon was away at war, Zeus spent the night with Alcmene, convincing her that her husband had returned victorious. It was a divine impersonation, and it worked. From that night, Alcmene became pregnant with Heracles, a child destined for greatness, strength, and suffering. But Hera, as always, found out. She was furious, not just at Zeus, but at the child. She sent snakes to kill baby Heracles in his crib. But even as an infant, Heracles was strong. He strangled the snakes with his bare hands. It was the first sign that this child was no ordinary mortal. Hera never forgave Heracles for being born. She tormented him throughout his life, driving him to madness and causing him to commit a terrible act, one that led to his punishment, the 12 labors. These weren't chores. They were epic quests, slaying the Nemean lion, capturing the golden hind, cleaning the Augean stables, fetching the apples of the Hesperides, and 8 more that tested every ounce of his strength and spirit. Each labor was a step toward redemption, a way to earn immortality, a path carved by pain, courage, and divine interference. Zeus's union with Alcmene was built on deception, but it gave the world one of its greatest heroes. Heracles became a symbol of endurance, transformation, and the struggle to rise above fate. And Alcmene, she remained a mortal queen, caught between gods and destiny, raising a son who would one day join the stars. Heracles would eventually ascend to Olympus, becoming a god himself, proof that even flawed beginnings can lead to divine endings. Callisto was a nymph of Artemis, wild, loyal, and devoted to the goddess of the hunt. She roamed forests, chased deer, and vowed to remain untouched by love or man. But Zeus had a habit of ignoring vows. He saw Callisto and was enchanted by her fierce spirit and quiet beauty. And instead of thunder or swans, he chose deception. He disguised himself as Artemis. Yes, Artemis. Callisto, trusting the familiar face, let her guard down. And from that moment, her fate was sealed. Callisto became pregnant. She tried to hide it, but the truth grew with her belly. When Artemis discovered the betrayal, she was furious, not at Zeus, but at Callisto. She was cast out from the sacred circle of nymphs, alone and ashamed. Then Hera found out, and Hera, ever the queen of cosmic revenge, transformed Callisto into a bear, a real bear, fur, claws, and a heart still beating with sorrow. Callisto wandered the woods, raising her son Arcas, born from Zeus. Years passed. One day, Arcas, now a hunter, came face to face with the bear. He didn't know it was his mother. He raised his spear, and Zeus, watching from Olympus, intervened. In a flash of divine mercy, he lifted both Callisto and Arcas into the sky, placing them among the stars as Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, the Great Bear and the Little Bear. Callisto's story is one of betrayal, transformation, and redemption. She was deceived, punished, and nearly forgotten, until Zeus turned her into a constellation. Now, every night, she watches over the world from above, her love and pain etched into the heavens. And Zeus? He moved on, as always, but Callisto remained, a bear in the stars, a mother in the sky, and a myth that glows forever. Nemesis was the goddess of divine retribution, graceful, stern, and absolutely uninterested in romance. She kept balance in the cosmos, punishing arrogance and rewarding humility. She was justice with wings. So naturally, Zeus was intrigued. He pursued her across the heavens, through forests, rivers, and even transformations. Nemesis kept fleeing, changing shape to escape him, fish, bird, beast. But Zeus was persistent. Eventually, she became a goose, and Zeus, he became a swan, because apparently, love in Olympus often involved feathers. Despite her resistance, Nemesis was eventually caught. Their union was brief, strange, and wrapped in divine symbolism. Later, Nemesis laid an egg. Yes, an egg. She abandoned it, and it was found by Leda, Queen of Sparta. Yes, the same Leda from the swan story. Leda cared for the egg, and from it hatched Helen, a child so beautiful the world would one day burn for her. Some myths say Helen was the daughter of Zeus and Leda. Others say she came from Nemesis. Either way, her birth was wrapped in feathers, mystery, and divine drama. Helen grew into a woman of unmatched beauty. She married Menelaus, king of Sparta, but when Paris of Troy took her away, the greatest war in mythology began. The Trojan War. Thousands of ships sailed. Heroes clashed. Cities burned, all for Helen. She became a symbol of desire, destiny, and the chaos that follows beauty. Zeus's pursuit of Nemesis was one of the strangest in myth, a chase of justice that led to the birth of a queen. And Nemesis, she remained distant, untouched by the drama her egg unleashed. Helen's story reminds us that beauty can shape empires, and that even the gods can't predict the consequences of their passions. Hera was the queen of Olympus, regal, powerful, and deeply committed to marriage. But being married to Zeus meant living in a storm of betrayal. His affairs were endless, his disguises creative, and his excuses laughable. And Hera? She didn't take betrayal lightly. She couldn't punish Zeus directly. He was king of the gods. But his lovers, his children, they felt her fury. Io was turned into a cow. Hera assigned Argus, the 100-eyed giant, to guard her. Even after Hermes freed her, Hera sent a gadfly to chase her across the earth, mooing misery. Callisto, loyal to Artemis, was tricked by Zeus and cast out. Hera turned her into a bear, forcing her to wander the woods until Zeus placed her in the stars, a constellation born from heartbreak. When Leto became pregnant with Zeus's twins, Hera banned every land from sheltering her. Leto wandered endlessly until she found Delos, a floating island not bound by Hera's curse. There she gave birth to Apollo and Artemis. Semele, tricked by Hera into demanding Zeus's true form, was incinerated by divine fire. Her unborn child, Dionysus, was saved only by Zeus's thigh. Hera's revenge was precise and fatal. Heracles, son of Zeus and Alcmene, was Hera's favorite target. She sent snakes to his crib, madness to his mind, and monsters to his path. His 12 labors were born from her relentless wrath. Hera's punishments weren't random. They were calculated, symbolic, and often eternal. She turned beauty into beasts, love into exile, and children into warriors. She wasn't just jealous. She was justice in a crown. And while Zeus continued his escapades, Hera remained the storm behind the stories, the queen who refused to be forgotten. Zeus wasn't just the king of the gods. He was the spark behind some of the most powerful myths in history. His affairs weren't just romantic detours. They were cosmic catalysts. Every time Zeus fell in love, the world shifted. From his many unions came gods, heroes, and forces that defined the universe. Athena, born from Metis, became the goddess of wisdom and war strategy. Apollo and Artemis, born from Leto, ruled over the sun, moon, music, and the hunt. Hermes, born from Maia, became the messenger god and patron of thieves and travelers. Dionysus, born from Semele, brought wine, madness, and theater to mortals. Heracles, born from Alcmene, became the greatest mortal hero and earned a place among the gods. Each child carried a piece of Zeus's power and a legacy that rippled through myth and history. Zeus's lovers weren't always divine. Many were mortal women whose lives were upended by his attention. Danae was locked in a tower, then gave birth to Perseus, slayer of Medusa. Europa was carried across the sea by a bull and became the mother of kings. Semele was incinerated by divine fire, but her son Dionysus reshaped culture. Alcmene endured Hera's wrath, but raised Heracles, who became a symbol of strength. These women didn't just suffer. They became the mothers of legends. Zeus's affairs triggered wars, quests, and transformations. Helen of Troy, born from either Leda or Nemesis, became the face of the Trojan War. Callisto, turned into a bear, became a constellation. Io, cursed to wander, gave rise to dynasties. Even the stars were rearranged by his passions. Zeus didn't just chase beauty, he shaped destiny. His affairs were the threads that wove the tapestry of Greek mythology. Gods were born, mortals were tested, the heavens shifted, and Hera, she remained the storm behind the stories, ensuring that every act of desire came with a price. Zeus was more than thunder and lightning. He was desire wrapped in divinity, a god who chased beauty, shaped destiny, and left a trail of myths wherever he wandered. His lovers were goddesses, nymphs, queens, and mortals. Each one changed the world. Some gave birth to heroes. Some became stars. Some were cursed. Some were crowned. But all were remembered. From Metis to Mnemosyne, from Danae to Semele, each affair was a spark that lit the mythological sky. Zeus didn't just fall in love, he rewrote fate. Athena sprang from his head, fully formed. Heracles labored through pain to earn immortality. Dionysus danced between madness and joy. Helen's beauty launched 1,000 ships. Perseus, Hermes, Apollo, Artemis, all born from moments of divine longing. Even the stars bear his imprint. Ursa Major, Gemini, and constellations born from heartbreak and hope. Zeus ruled Olympus, but his heart ruled myth. His desire wasn't just romantic, it was creative. It birthed gods, shaped empires, and gave mortals stories to tell for thousands of years. And Hera? She was the storm, behind the calm, the queen who reminded the world that love without consequence is just thunder without rain. In the end, Zeus's legacy isn't just power, it's passion. It's the way he turned longing into legend, and how every affair, no matter how brief, echoed through eternity. He was flawed, he was mighty, he was unforgettable, and as the myths drift into sleep, his stories remain, glowing softly in the minds of dreamers. Thank you for listening. Wherever you are, under stars, beside mountains, or curled up in bed, may your dreams be filled with gods, heroes, and gentle thunder. Good night.